Coach.
I can't. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. And this is a season in wrap-up presser. And so maybe a short opening statement, and then we'll go right into questions. And we got people lined up already. So, Coach, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. Well, I thought it was a fantastic year. And I think the one thing that had a little bit of time away, obviously we're disappointed in the ending. And I think that's a we were all hopeful and wishing that we were playing today. But again, it's what makes March Madness. I think this is part of the growth of a program. And you look back in history, you look back in time, and you see programs that I've sure been on the other side as a 14 beating a 3, and you look back and you have to understand the urgency with which the end happens or can happen in March Madness. And but I'm extremely proud of this group of guys this season. I'm extremely proud of the fact that we won 16 league games. Again, in the best conference in college basketball. Obviously, the Big Ten championship was an unbelievable accomplishment and a tremendous amount of fun. And did it with a group that grew. They became connected. They became together as one. That was special to see. That's fun to watch. It's fun to see young guys grow. Along with that came some incredible amount of individual awards. Iowa winning the Kuzi Award and first team All-American, and Kofi an All-American, and Trent all defensive, and you go right on down the list, and Cabello sixth man, and we did it with a group of guys who had fun, and in a trying year with COVID. To not have a positive test since August, to the discipline that took, the mental challenges of that. I couldn't be prouder of this group, and it's not very often that we say we get to have a lot of fun coaching a group, but I think everybody would admit that we had a lot of fun coaching this team, and had COVID not happened, we would have been an NCAA tournament team last year as well. We've got more wins in the last 2 years than any team in the Big Ten. I think that speaks volumes to the commitment of our staff, their ability not just to recruit, but to coach and develop players. And in a league that has been arguably the 2 best years in the history of the Big Ten. So I feel great about all of that, and where we're at. I feel great about the future, and State Farm Center remodeled, getting ready to start on the Evan practice facility, where this program is headed, and excited for the future.
All right, thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and start with Jeremy and then move on down the line. So lead us off, Jeremy.
Hey, Brad, good to see you. The transfer portal obviously is a big topic here, and there's almost 1,200 names in the portal, which I think is about a third or a quarter of Division I players. What's the impact of this on your sport and as you as a coach in your job?
Well, I'd be lying if I had not said that it's been the majority of my last 10 days, 11 days. It really creates a unique scenario. I think that, I've always had the philosophy that I wanted to build with freshmen and develop them. I think we've been an unbelievable program in terms of development of players. And, I'll use Io, a young man who's gained 30 pounds, added 9 inches to his vertical, couldn't bench press 185 when he gets here, and he did it 16 times the other day. That's development and maturity. I don't know if those days exist anymore. We've spent I think we're going to have to shop from the full menu, so to speak. And, you know, you're expecting 1,500 plus kids to be in the portal. That's 5 per team, basically. We've got a completely different scenario for recruiting. It impacts trying to get old and stay old. We saw the benefit of that this year. It impacts every aspect of it, from admissions to things that can, you know, happen institutional wise. And so I don't know the full ramification of that. It is what it is. I'm wrapping my brain around 34 years of trying to build one way. I remember when retention was the key word, and APR was the key word, and helping young people graduate. And now we've done the complete flip from all of that. So it's a different world. It is what it is, and we're going to have to adapt and learn along the way. So the portal's obviously a big part of what we're trying to do and look at. I do think it's a conference and a league that you have to try to stay relatively old in, and you know, we'll have to shop the whole menu, so to speak.
Is there anything, because I know you would prefer the high school, don't, as you said, don't know if that's possible anymore, but is there anything you have to look for now in high school recruiting that makes you think a kid might stay longer? Is there even a thing you can look for that?
When you let me know what that is, figure out what that is, let me know. I don't know. You know, it's, you know, the advantage to the transfer portal is they've transferred and they can again. You know, you get a chance to get a student athlete for more than 1 year potentially. So, you know, there's some advantage in retention. There's no doubt, but you know, that's the downside to a freshman, is they could obviously leave, or if they're good enough, go pro.
Thanks, Brad.
I think I'm next. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Shannon.
I was wondering, do you have any updates or inklings to where some guys are leaning as far as, you know, some seniors have another year of eligibility, or has, you know, what have your conversations with Kofi been like?
We do not, at this point, Shannon, we let our guys all go home. We're all in online classes. So as soon as we got back, they've been gone. We let them spend Easter weekend. They haven't been home since June. So we haven't had any postseason meetings as of yet. We'll start having those discussions as we get back into the rest of the spring.
Right. And I was just curious too, I mean, you mentioned that idea of development. I think everybody thought with Adam Miller, he was one of those guys that was, you know, a long development, you know, saw big things coming for him. Were you surprised by that, or what did you get for reasons for it?
Shannon, I made a statement about that. To say I'm surprised by anything in today's world, I'm not.
All right, thanks.
Coach, can you talk about, are you able to, or do you desire to, if you have a player go into the portal, to re-recruit that player since they technically have not left yet? I mean, you know, we seem to somewhat be in an age where players can just put their name in there, see what's out there, and then maybe come back. Do you have a policy for that? Do you say, no, if a player is in there, he is no longer on the roster? How do you handle that?
No, I don't have a policy for that. Again, I think everything is, they don't have to tell us when they do it. So, you know, there can be, you know, I think everything's on the table at this point as we as we kind of move through this for really the first time.
So if you had, say, 5 players put their name in just to see who else contacts them by having them in there, how do you treat that? Are you recruiting them again, or are you just letting them decide and tell you how do you approach that?
Yeah, again, I think the one thing that we do is we want guys who want to be a part of what we do, and as we have into the season meetings, we'll have those discussions. But you know, that's the world we're in, Robert. They don't have to tell us anything. They hold all the cards. And that's the one thing we've got to, we're going to all continually deal with and throughout our sport now.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Brad, good to see you. We haven't obviously talked to you since you guys were in Indianapolis. How much time have you spent revisiting that Loyola game, if any, and maybe what are some takeaways that you have from that?
I haven't watched it yet. I haven't had the stomach to do that, to be very honest. I haven't watched a game yet. I will watch the championship game tonight. I have literally not turned on TV. I've watched 2 women's games, and I think the one thing I tried to do is maybe process why I thought we were emotionally flat and just had no juice. I don't know why that was. We played with such an edge, and I don't know what we won 15 or 16 or 16 or 17, whatever it was, and I thought we played with an edge, and for whatever reason, and that's not to discredit anything that Loyola did. They were terrific, but we just didn't have it, and I don't know why. It was a different experience. Obviously, winning the Big Ten championship, immediately going into quarantine, we didn't get to separate that. I felt like we maybe didn't get to reset. To me, one of the special things of the NCAA tournament is hearing your name called. We were in the locker room. Most of our guys didn't even know who we played. And the selection show started, and we were kind of on the stage, and we never got to really celebrate even the victory. We went straight to quarantine and for a day, and we never left our rooms for a day. So I don't know. I haven't got a great answer for that, Joey, but I don't want to discredit anything Loyola did. They were terrific, and we just didn't play well. And that's that again, they had a lot to do with that.
Is this like a pretty normal postseason process for you to kind of not watch games, or because of just what this season was and to have it end when it did, that you just couldn't bring yourself to do it?
No, this one is, I would be lying if I didn't say this one's not more difficult. I usually, it took me, the Notre Dame game when I was at SFA, it took me a good while to watch that one as well. It was a tip in at the buzzer. You've got, I usually don't watch right away, but this one stings. I'm not lying. But man, we can't discredit or take away from all the positives of the year. And that's what I keep going back to. We were a 1 seed. We were as good as any team in the country. I believe that. And that's what makes March Madness. And it's the abruptness of the end. And that stings and that hurts. And it's not something to take lightly.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad. So you mentioned, guys getting a chance to go home. Do you have like a timetable for when you'll reconvene and then maybe, move forward with whatever's next for kind of the spring?
Yeah, they're working their way back in this week. So we need some time off. There's no doubt. I think Scott, I think one of the interesting things you're going to see is all the Pac-12's success in the postseason. I think one of the interesting arguments is going to be about, they had no summer, they had no fall. They, both the teams in the championship had extensive layoffs from COVID during the season. So we're going to take some time off. We've been going since June as part of our protocols and everyday testing. And it was just as easy to do something in the gym and work as it was to just let them roam around and do nothing when they had to be here. So we'll get back in with Fletch, but the basketball stuff we'll take a little bit of a break from. We'll take a little mental break from that.
So I guess when you do get back to that down the road, will this offseason be any different, do you feel, because you didn't have it last year, And how much does maybe the uncertainty of the roster kind of impact what you might be able to do if there's maybe guys kind of?
Yeah, it's all the above. Guys want to work out, guys want to play, and we'll work out accordingly with that. But I think the one thing we've got to address is, we've got to the uncertainty of the roster. We can't do anything about. We don't know what that will look like. We've got one summer session here that starts in June. We'll have guys in for that, obviously to stay on top of their academic work. But I would assume that we probably won't have a whole roster here by then.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Coach, hope you're doing well. How do you plan to approach the decisions with Trent DeMonte on your end as far as what you want them to look at, and as far as what you would recommend for those guys?
Yeah, it's an evaluation process. I mean, they've both done great things here. They've been a part of it. I think you've got to sit down and discuss what they want out of their futures, and what they want that to look like. And obviously, nobody thinks more of those two young men than I do, and want what's best for them in any way, shape, or form. So we'll have those discussions and get those answers and make informed decisions from there.
As you look at the portal, and as you said, there's a lot of uncertainty with your roster. Have you come to a realization of what you're looking for as far as needs, or is that something that's gonna have to play out? How do you kind of balance that and judge that right now?
Yeah, I think we're, unfortunately, we're like everybody else in the country, probably looking at every position. No, we've got, we've got some things that we've got to know there's some things we've got to address and want to get better at and look to improve. And I think that's the one thing that the portal provides is, an opportunity to get some immediate impact in certain areas, and we can do that.
Thank you.
Brandon, you're up. Brandon Simberg, are you still there? If not, we'll go back to Matt Stevens and then move back to Brandon. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Brad, how do you anticipate the end of the year conversation you have with Kofi differing from the end of last season, where it's kind of the same decision, but maybe it's not?
Yeah, I think it's always about information. The class in the draft changes. You need to hear he's got a different body of work this year than he had last year. All those things are to be determined by those next level guys, and so it's about processing all that information and looking at that and seeing what that looks like.
Can I ask, do you anticipate anything with the competition committee about rule changes for next year, or anything you'd like to bring up, anything you'd like to see that could happen for next season that as we've gone through this?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure if it is, because I think they only can vote every other year.
Okay.
I don't know for sure if this is even a voting year, to be honest. Matt, it's not something I've thought much about yet, but I'm always a big fan of continuity and the game being the same game for everybody, but we're far from that in this country right now.
And can I ask a quick follow-up about Kofi in the sense of, does the conversation that you have with him, how much of it comes up the idea that he takes the amount of unique punishment that he takes pretty much with anybody in the country? I mean, it would seem like if he's going to come back, you would have to figure out another way to deal with that, even though he wasn't injured this year. But I think you know what I'm talking about, which is this is another year where he's just going to have to go through that type of punishment that he went through this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's, those are all things. I think he handled that very well. I think for Kofi, it's about continuing to grow his game much more so than anything like that.
Thanks, Brad.
We going back to Brandon or me?
No, go ahead, Scott.
Okay.
Oh, he said the question has been asked anyway, so go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Brad, at this time, do you anticipate any changes on your staff?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. That's all I had. Thanks.
Hey Brad, you talk a lot about the transfer portal, but another thing you've talked a lot about in the past is that the great thing about freshmen is they become sophomores. When you're looking at a player like Andre Cabello, who kind of showed some flashes of greatness throughout the season, what are some things that you're kind of hoping to see in that improvement category moving into his second season?
I think we'll see him much more confident, much more. I think we'll see a much better shooter. I think we'll see a guy that is will be put in a leadership role. Obviously, that mental part of it changes. I think we'll see a stronger. I think we'll see a better defender. I think he'll get better in every area of the game. One of the greatest jumps between freshman and sophomore comes from confidence, and then another year in the weight room. And he's a young guy that will benefit from that drastically. He'll make huge improvements. So, I'd be disappointed if he doesn't have an outstanding year.
Mentioned some improvements in leadership as well, and you see that a lot in players like Io and Trent, some other point guards that were on the team. With both of those guys potentially gone next year, is that something that you want to kind of put on Andre as a point guard, as kind of that facilitator, maybe stepping into a bigger leadership role?
Yeah, that's something that comes very natural for him. That's and I think as a freshman he took a back seat, but I think it's something that we witnessed in the recruiting process. It becomes very natural for him and very easy for him to lead.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Coach, you talked about trying to get old and stay old as a philosophy. Is that kind of out the window now with how the portal is in the future? I mean, are you kind of giving up on that, building an old roster without having to add juniors or seniors from the portal, or how do you go about it now?
Yeah, it's adding them through the portal. It becomes a little more of a challenge when you sign a high school kid who can leave. One of the advantages of the portal is they do become a one-time transfer, and and then they can't leave. I think you've got to find, continue to find the right character pieces, and that's important. But in some ways, the portal can keep you old. You've got to be able to find the right pieces academically that fit your university and your situation. But again, it's it's uncharted territory a little bit for us. We took two guys that set out in Austin and Jacob, and they benefited dramatically from a year of setting out and getting stronger and knowing our system. And then I like the fact that they're older. Both of them are 22, 23 years old now, and there's a maturity level that comes with that.
So in this season, I've heard people refer to it as this transfer portal right now being chaos or wild, wild west. How would you describe it at this point?
All that's fair. It's the first time going through it, really, and I say this where it's just the massive numbers. I think it will settle down at some point because kids won't be able to transfer. I think you've got the group of athletes who can all come back. They didn't lose a year, so I do think it would settle down some. But I think we all want to try to find a certain level of continuity within our program, not just me, but everybody else. And I don't think anybody knows for sure, how to do that. I mean, you're going to look tonight, and and watch a Baylor team that is, you know, predominantly transfers, and Oregon and Gonzaga's got a few, you know, so I think it's finding that right blend, and then finding the guys, most importantly, that fit your culture, and the character pieces are just as important.
Coach, have you heard from Austin Hutchinson at all? I mean, is he planning on coming back to campus this semester or next year?
Oh yeah, we talk weekly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
And what's his timeline for just maybe getting back with you guys here in Champaign?
Yeah, you know, it's a unique year because of obviously COVID, and he's been training. He's been healthy. We've been getting videos sent, and workouts that he's doing in his rehab and recovery. So yeah, and the timeline hasn't been set definitely yet, but yeah, we've been in constant communication throughout.
And I know you mentioned him briefly, just kind of that year of sitting out and getting to know the system a little bit. I mean, what does a year off essentially like this mean for him coming back? I mean, what's your expectation as he comes in and rejoins the team whenever he does?
Yeah, Marley, the first thing and most important thing for him is getting healthy. You know, he had stress fractures in his back, and that's not something that you take lightly, and you know, getting to a point where you know, that young man could operate and feel comfortable on a day-to-day basis was the most important thing. And beyond that, you know, we saw him as a healthy student athlete, you know, when he first got here, and he was terrific, and has a very promising future, but you got to make sure that young man's healthy first and foremost.
All right, thank you very much.
Hey, Coach, I don't know exactly the NCAA rule specifics around this, but you can definitely use his story. How important is Ayo's story and the success he had, and then potentially communicating with recruits into the future while you're trying to get kids in the portal, or even high school kids?
He should be the guiding light, the example of stick-to-itiveness, of adversity, of work, you name it. You know, I think that was one of the things that I truly enjoyed in my conversations with all of the panel on the Cousy committee. You know, was, you know, a young man that went through the adversity of losing his first year here, all the growth, all the continued work in the weight room, all the continued growth, you know, in his second year, and helping us win, becoming one of the elite closers, and just watching that development, making unbelievable decisions in terms of you know, returning to college, and not worrying about a timeline, you know, just doing it when it was right, to now becoming National Player of the Year by USA Today, a first team All-American, and a guy who's going to be a first-round draft pick. And if there's ever any better guiding light than that, man, I don't know what it is. And you know, he's just a young man that kept his nose to the grindstone and worked really, really hard, and you know, didn't get swayed from what the ultimate goal at the finish line was. And man, he was spectacular. He went through it. He's been through it all. He's been through adversity. He's a better person, better player, because he's went through all of that.
Okay. Brad, just sort of follow up to what I asked you previously. How much of an impact could, and I guess maybe I'm hoping you have a normal off season, because that means more things will be normal, but for guys like Coleman, Brandon, maybe even Andre, a healthy Ben, just how much could they be helped by going through maybe more typical spring and summer?
Oh, you know, I think there's tremendous benefit. I mean, we did nothing, you know, last year. I mean, we weren't, even though our guys were here, I mean, we had small group weight workouts. You know, we weren't able to really tackle any specific needs in terms of improvement of the game. We just, we couldn't handle all that because of COVID and the restrictions that were put on us. So I think there's tremendous growth with that. So, I think we'll keep working and hopefully that, we've got all those pieces put in place to get back to normal.
Hey, Brad, I just had a quick follow-up to the Austin. I know assuming health is a lot probably at this point, but at a position of need, what could he give you there if he's healthy?
He's an elite shooter. And, he's a guy that has length, versatility. So I think that there's a guy that we were excited about and are excited about. But he was a guy that has a certain skill set. He's never worn the uniform at this level. That still has to happen, but there's tremendous potential there because of his flexibility and versatility.
And I know you're in contact with Brian Russell a lot, and he's kind of leading name, image, and likeness. Is that a part of your sell to potential returners, even though we don't know exactly what it'll look like yet?
Yes and no. We haven't talked about it a lot because we don't know anything to talk about. Everybody throws it out there as a NIL, and yet we don't know what it's even going to look like and how it's going to work. And everybody throws, well, so and so could have made this or that. That's all sheer speculation. So I don't know what that will look like. It'd be lying if I said we didn't, bring it up because it is going to impact us at some level. We just don't know what it is yet.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, a quick follow-up. I know you've spent obviously quite a bit of time roster building and planning out what your roster is going to look like, but for a basketball coach who hasn't really had the stomach to watch basketball games for a few weeks, it's like, what have you been up to for these few weeks kind of out of the bubble here?
Yeah, it's been probably a while since I've just, I've come into the office, the portal's been a big part of it. I'd be lying if we said we haven't, we're not constantly, on the portal. We're looking. I think it was, I had a great Easter weekend. My kids were home. I got to spend some time with them. But I literally have I've read and just tried to literally think about how to reform what we've been doing in terms of the recruiting piece, and that's taken a lot of thought, and I've spent a good deal of time on that. And then I've been trying to clean up my office, to be honest.
Is that like a self-reflecting thing, or is that a pretty like in-depth conversations with the coaches? How do you kind of come to
all of it? I've got to figure it out for me because I've done it a certain way for so long. I've been set in some philosophical things and just trying to play it out. I've had conversations with other people, both in and out of the game. Just trying to really kind of grasp it. And so I don't, I'm not saying I've got it all figured out yet, but at least I think I've got a better idea of how I want to tackle this.
Thank you.
Brad, is there an advantage or an experience that you can draw on from your junior college days as a coach when your roster changed half of it every year?
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of being a JUCO coach was, I had 8 to 10 guys about every year. And, I think, you've got to decide maybe if you want to be a little more flexible in your style of play and more being able to adapt and change if your team is a little bit different. We're still trying very hard to find the right pieces that fit us so we don't have to make a lot of those adjustments. I think one of the advantages of the portal, the evaluation process is real. I mean, they've been through 100 practices or more. They've been in a college game. You've got all kinds of film to watch them, and and see, and that's real. We get involved looking at guys that come from certain programs, where we think their system is similar to ours or close, and all that plays into effect.
And you've built an identity around the everyday guys, the toughness
Mhm.
to get after it. Is there talent that you see out there in the portal where you go, great talent, not for us, because maybe the style or the skill is there, but not the character?
Yeah, Scott, that's not just a portal thing. That's an everything thing. That's one of the hardest things to evaluate on film. Is when I've seen a guy 3 or 4 times, it's not about whether he's good enough anymore. Now I want to see how he handles coaching, how he handles his teammates. I'm paying much more attention to that than, if any of you guys asked me how many did he score in that game, I probably couldn't tell you, but I can tell you how he acted when there was a bad call, how things got hard. If it was a 9 o'clock in the morning game, did he have any effort and play hard, or was he asleep? I mean, all those are the intangible pieces, and that's what's really hard to watch on film. Is you only see the ball, you only see the game, you don't see those interactions on a sideline. That's the challenge of being that. Now we're back to junior college recruiting. Everything's 100 phone calls, figuring out this, figuring out that piece, and that's the everyday guys mentality is the one thing that's not going away, and we got to try to hit a home run with that.
Thanks much.